This is the Keychron Q14 Max, a 96% Alice layout mechanical keyboard that can be run wired or wirelessly and has this interesting quirk: a number pad on the wrong side of the keyboard. I've been looking at Alice layout keyboards for a little while, you know, these kind of split but not actually physical split layouts. And given a choice, I would have preferred to have looked at one of their Alice boards without the keypad, but that isn't the unit that they wanted to send me. But now I've used it for a little while, I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't. This is a brilliant keyboard. It's incredibly presented, beautifully made, and worth every penny of the $229 asking price, given the sort of competition. But the truth is, I'm not sure I'll be using it much, and if you want to know why that is, it's going to take a little bit longer. The Q14 Max works wirelessly over 2.4 GHz RF, Bluetooth 5.1, and it'll also run wired. It has a hardware toggle switch on the back, and that's not just for the differing connections, but there's also the ability to swap easily between predefined Windows layers and predefined Mac layers, which makes getting up and running very straightforward if you're on one of those OSs, which is the vast majority. It's wonderfully presented. It comes with a printed manual and a quick setup card. You also get a keycap and switch puller, some keycaps to swap in case you're on Windows, and a generous length USB-C braided cable. The case is 6063 aluminium, which I had to look up what that really meant, and it's the same kind of aluminium you find in door frames and windows. And this material gives the Q14 Max an absolutely bulletproof feel, and it's absolutely flawless in its finish. The typing feel and the acoustics are sublime. I mean, if you take a look at the construction of this on their website, you can understand why. There's multiple foams, gaskets, films. Even the space bars, as short as they might be, they feel incredible, with barely anything to give away the fact that they are in fact stabilised keys. Due to all these weighty materials, the Q14 Max is not a board to travel with unless you're some kind of sadist. It weighs 2.5 kilograms, or roughly 5.5 pounds, depending on which side of the pond you are. Yes, I am serious. That is how heavy it is. It is a proper porker. But it does really type all the better for it. It's the kind of board to park on your desk, enjoy it for years to come, safe in the knowledge you have every key you could possibly want. Now technically, this is known as a 96% Alice layout, but what's unusual about this particular Alice 96 layout is this keypad on the left rather than on the right. What is this demented witchery? Well, I have to tell you, I'm amazed now that more boards don't have this. Keychron referred to it as Southpaw, and I thought the idea was a bit of a gimmick when I saw it, but in use, it's impossible to deny the practicality. Excel nerds likely don't watch this channel, which they obviously should, because this is a keyboard just made for right-handed arithmomania sufferers. Having the number pad on the left makes it feel like a 65% board, but with benefits. I really haven't missed the space to the left of my keyboard as I'm using it, but it means I can keep my trusty MX Master close by on the right. There are other parts of this layout I really like. There's a dedicated inverted T-arrow cluster. There's a little bank of page nav keys for page up, down and home. There's a lovely little split spacebar down at the bottom and two B keys. I don't know why, it obviously looks weird with a space there, so you better believe this was the best design choice. It also has a volume knob at the top left, which you could probably repurpose to zoom in or out or do any other uppy downy thing. It's just got everything you could sensibly want a key for. You know, it's like the antithesis of something like the Core and the Pianta or any of the other 36 keys or less boards. This enjoys every physical key you could ever likely need. It also has these wonderful high PBT keycaps. Now, they are KSA profile, which I knew absolutely nothing about until this keyboard arrived. I assumed looking at them they were SA profile because of their height, but KSA is actually Keychron's reimagining of that earlier profile but with a flatter top. They feel great here. The legends are super clear too, and I love the homing keys because they've got not just a homing dot, but they've also got a more pronounced scoop, and they're just wonderful and unmistakable when you rest your hands on the keyboard. And they've even got a little homing dot just on the top of the arrow keys as well, which I think is a lovely touch. There is a downside here. If, like me, you were a Colmac user, for example, each row of the board has got a different profile keycap. So if you do use something different like Colmac, Dvorak or something else, and thought you could just swap around a key or 10 so that the legends match your own layout, well, think again. So this is the first reason this board won't be a long-termer for me. It's a weird thing I've got where I'm fine with all completely blank keycaps, but legending keys in the wrong position just freaks me out a little bit. This is the first keyboard I've had with Gateron Jupiter switches in. I've got the red ones in here, which are linear and pretty quiet, and I really, really like them. Now, they're still MX switches, but the Jupiter switches have improved springs, different molds, they have factory lube, and apparently a softer diffuser for the LEDs. Without a comparison board, it's hard to know how much of this lovely typing feel that you get with the Q14 Max we can attribute to the switches, and to how much is the case and the foams and all that kind of carry on. But all that matters really is this Q14 Max feels incredibly satisfying to type on. You could easily find out, obviously, because the Q14 is hot swappable, but I've liked these Jupiter Reds so much I've just had no reason to swap them out. And what's also impressive is that the Q14 has a number of wider stabilised keys, and they all still feel and sound great. There's no side-to-side wobble and no irritating rattles in use, which is what you tend to get on all but the best-made keyboards. Keychron uses a sort of augmented version of the VIA software to configure your keyboard. And this is an online tool which you plug in the board, you connect it to the Keychron configurator, and you change the keys as needed. And those changes are instantly applied on your board. Now that's great, but I don't actually love VIA. The reason is it gives you a simple way to set up all the most basic keys, but for anything a little bit more involved, like home row mods, for example, it's a pain. Now, I've explained home row mods on a few prior videos, so I'm not going to go over that again here, because the likelihood is that if you're buying a keyboard like this, home row mods aren't something you will need to concern yourself with anyway. But the short version is, if you want to add home row mods in VIA, you can do that. You just need to find the any key and then type in longhand the shortcut using the correct QMK code. So, for example, a left-hand shift key on hold and a G on tap would look something like this, as set inside an any key. Now, the board has a slight incline, but it is quite high off the desk regardless. Due to the height of the case and those tool keycaps, even the lowest keys on the bottom row sit about 38mm off the desk, nearly 4 centimeters. Now, to give you a comparison to a very low keyboard, here it is next to a ZSA Voyager, which is around 60mm. If you hover your hands above your board when you type, that's nothing to worry about. However, if you are a slovenly pig of a man, or indeed woman, then you will likely want a wrist rest for more comfort, to bring your wrists more level with the typing surface. Now, that would be straightforward if the board had a straight bottom edge, but it does not. And even Keychron don't offer a wrist rest to match that curve across the front of the board. My advice here is, if you aren't a hover typer, which I'm not, this probably isn't the most comfortable board for you. Now, there's a bunch of stuff on the Q14 Max that works so well, it kind of hardly felt worth a mention, but just to confirm, there is RGB lighting galore, with plenty of built-in animations to amuse yourself with. I've also had no issues at all with connection when using it wirelessly. It just works exactly as you would expect. If you are left-handed and you use a layout other than QWERTY, or you rarely use the number pad, or even if you rest your wrists on the desk a whole lot and need wrist rests to type comfortably ordinarily, you should likely keep looking for something that better suits your needs. However, if you are a right-handed QWERTY layout user who requires frequent use of a number pad, floats the hands for the majority of the time when they type, and you want an elegant but slightly quirky all-in-one design that has pretty much every physical key you could ever want, this should absolutely be the top of your shopping list. It feels so solid and satisfying to type on, and it has so many little delightful touches like the volume knob and the delightful homing keys that it's impossible not to be impressed. For the people this keyboard suits, I think you'll be very hard-pressed to find a better built, presented and enjoyable keyboard to use than this for the money. And also, having spent some time around this Keychron, I'd love to see what they did with a proper physically split keyboard. Something like a Soffel layout, around 60 keys, with their engineering and software chops, would probably end up being something very special indeed. See you again sometime.